the semiconductor issue is broadly similar. We have certain plants that make substantial amounts of particular types of semiconductors. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is the market leader, and those components go into just a host of different goods, from electronics to automobiles, and this is why we've seen shortages in all of those areas. So we have not operated on that fundamental idea of resiliency, where you disperse this, you diversify your supplier base, and you make sure that any one disruption isn't going to affect the entire product line. We have operated on a much different philosophy, one that says, let's look for the lowest cost, let's look for economies of scale, let's look for efficiency throughout the supply chain. Let's deregulate what we have to put forward so that we're paying the lowest cost to get those goods shipped and into place. Let's use just-in-time logistics so that we don't waste, quote unquote, waste money on inventory. As we get the goods off the ships, we get them right into the warehouses, we get them then right into the retail space and out to customers as quickly as possible. And we only order what we need. That has been the guiding philosophy of supply chains and logistics and supply chain management. And it's frankly bit us in the ass in the pandemic years.
So frankly, it seems like it's two problems, though, right? I mean, it's the lack of redundancy, the lack of give, the lack of accounting for disruptions of the supply chain. But then there's the but the larger question of the supply chain in and of itself, which is a reliance on all of these dominoes falling in order to maintain our economy in the way that we want it to function, and not being able to account for, something like COVID and more pandemics to come.
Right. And it's not just COVID, and it's not just pandemics. It can be climate change. It can be that knocks out the Yangtze River, for example, last year, or heat waves that shut down air conditioning in various factories, which is what happened in China last year. It could be political unrest like we're seeing in Ukraine, which has caused severe disruptions to the supply chain, particularly for food. Yep. Ukraine is kind of the breadbasket of the world in terms of wheat, and has caused severe shortages in many poor and developing countries all around the world. So there's no one disruption that you sort of have to look out for. There are a number of them, and that is why I have consistently, and we've at the Prospect talked about this consistently, that we need a reset and a rethink of this entire way that we've structured our commerce. But formula offers an even different and maybe more insidious part of this, because in effect, what has happened through the baby formula industry in the United States has been effectively a government-granted set of small monopolies in every state.
Explain how that functions.
Sure. So there's a program called the Women, Infants, and Children's Program. This is a food and nutrition benefit for the poor. It's supplemental nutritional assistance. And since the 1980s, the late 1980s, it has been structured with regard to formula in this way. The WIC program, and each state has its own state-based WIC program, they contract with one manufacturer to supply infant formula to the program at a discount. That formula then gets passed on for free through vouchers to poor families. In exchange for getting this discount, the WIC program promises these manufacturers market exclusivity. So if you are in the state of Michigan, you can, and you are a poor mother, you can buy one brand of formula through the WIC program and get it for free, but only one brand. No other brand is eligible for WIC. And what this does is it completely distorts the market in every state. So what we know is about half of all formula is bought through the WIC program. So if you're going to a store in the state of Michigan, half of the families can only buy one thing on the shelf in that store when it comes to formula. The rest of the competition, what little there is in this market, is less interested in going on the shelf in a state like Michigan. I'm only using Michigan. I don't know why I'm using Michigan, but they're less likely to go on the shelf because they know that half the people can't buy their product. So why are you going to stock that shelf hoping that the other half of the market uses you to a large degree? And so what we see are these network effects. A great example is in California. So several years ago, they redid their competitive bidding process to get a new WIC supplier. And what happened was that prior to that competitive bidding process, about 80% or 90% of all the WIC sold in California went to the company of all formula in California went to the company that was the WIC supplier, and about 5% went to everybody else. And as soon as that WIC supplier changed, it completely flipped so that the new WIC supplier now sold 90% of the market, and the old WIC supplier now sold about 5% of the market. So there are these effects that create what amounts to 50 state monopolies. And Abbott has the WIC contract for 34 states and the District of Columbia.
Wow.
And so, and what we've seen is the states that have the most acute shortages are the states where Abbott is the WIC contractor. And that, of course, makes sense because Abbott hasn't been able to stock as many shelves because they knocked out this one major plant of theirs in Sturgis, Michigan.
So what is the solution to that, assuming that you need to make that offer to get to get a discount? Well, I should ask, right, is the discount even worth it? In other words, like, how much of a discount is it?
It's a substantial discount for, it's on the order of a couple $2 billion a year for the federal government, and it enables this program to be run at low cost to get free formula, which is not it's not just food, it's medicine, really. Right, I mean, it's required nutritional assistance for poor children. So, I mean, it's a well-intentioned program. It makes sense to do it. It does not make sense to do it in this way because it creates this monopolization that then is not resilient in these crises.
What's the better way to do it? I mean, it seems to me, just off the top of my head, it just seems like, well, maybe instead of having one given, you said 50 monopolies in 50 states. Well, it's really actually like when you go a little higher on that, it's like, well, one company has 34 of those states, and right, you're putting a lot of eggs in that one basket. Maybe what we need is you get 2 states or something like that, or I don't know, 5 states for each company, or 10 even.
Well, that would tend to make the competitive bidding a lot less competitive, right? Because what they're doing is they're saying, everybody give us your best offer and we'll take the lowest bid. And that's who gets the contract. So, I mean, I think there are a few ways to do this. One is separate that side of the market. If you're essentially saying a government program controls half of the market for formula, then just make it a government program. Just have it be a government supplier that then supplies that half of the market, and the other half of the market is therefore not distorted and can compete for other families who want formula, and hopefully that would drive down the price for that. Because the other thing that happens here is that because WIC is essentially free and heavily discounted by the manufacturer in these states, the other half of the market gets very high-priced formula. And then, in fact, formula is much more expensive in the United States than the rest of the world. So it seems like if we just nationalize the WIC part of the market and then the other part of the market can compete, I think that might be a better outcome for both sides.